Too many content creators and brands are jumping on the AI bandwagon to create content, and it's a massive mistake because audiences are actively getting tired of all the AI slop. Instead, the biggest brands in the world are doing the opposite. They're going out of their way and going all in to make 100% human-made content and using 3 specific techniques that make their audiences fall in love with their brand. After I discovered these, I realized these were the same exact principles I'd been using for years whenever I was directing my clients' content to help it convert better than ever before. So in this video, I'm going to break down what the 3 techniques are, the dead simple strategy to steal them for yourself, and how to start thinking like a director when you're creating your own content, because in an AI market, human-made is about to become your biggest competitive advantage. Let's start with technique number 1, build the physical world. In March 2025, during peak AI hype, Apple brought in director Spike Jonze to helm the Pedro Pascal AirPods 4 short film, Someday. But instead of using AI to create their highest level content and cultural moments, they doubled down on traditional production and human craft to signal the ultimate luxury. Using the same philosophy Jonze had brought to the 2018 ad Welcome Home that they shot with FKA Twig, they built real city sets, hired over 16 real dancers, and hired costume designer Kim Barrett to create these two-tone outfits so the dancers could physically flip their clothes in real time, making the seasonal transition happen directly on camera instead of using a digital AI color grade in post. When you look at the set, that's not AI either. It's a real stage transformed with paint and set decoration to create the contrasting worlds of Pascal's heartbreak. Now, back in 2018, CGI was the AI of that time. But Apple understood viewers would intuitively sense the difference between a real space and a computer-generated one and miss out on the tactile and kinetic connection of the real world. Kind of like listening to vinyl as opposed to a CD. So check out the apartment. It's this full-scale build on a soundstage with walls that slid on tracks and floors that stretched on hinges and rooms that rotated while FKA Twigs moved through them. And notice the specific moment when she comes home, she walks through the door, and after a long, exhausting day, she asks the HomePod to play some music, and the apartment literally begins to breathe and stretch around her. Watch the stagehands in this clip. They are literally physically pulling ropes. They've got these heavy hydraulic systems that they're responding to in real time while she's dancing between the moving walls. And notice how they shot the dance sequence in one continuous take. The crew spent days rehearsing the synchronization so that every single wall movement matched her choreography and the music perfectly. When you watch that wall expand on the screen, your brain immediately knows it's a real object with texture, weight, and friction, not a smooth digital illusion. Now, when it comes to your own videos, consider that if everything is simulated through AI, not only does it have that fake AI sheen, it feels totally out of reach and unattainable. AI tends to create these worlds that we can't actually experience, right? We can't step into them, we can't touch them. And in our real lives as humans, that feels disconnected. And I think what Spike Jonze understood is that the entire purpose of being alive is to experience as much as we can, and that we're creating connections through those experiences. And your content is just another way to facilitate that. Now, if you're new here, I'm Sam Ross, and as the owner of a creative agency, I get it. I have to navigate my clients' budget constraints all of the time. So I know it's easy to say, well, Apple has the biggest budgets imaginable and they can do whatever they want. But here's how the principle scales to meet you wherever you're at in your business. Now, I recently directed a sales video for a woman named Safrina Kadri, who is a master feng shui practitioner. But when it came to getting this content created, she kept running into the same issues. How is it coming off? How should it look? How should I set this up? Is the pacing right? And is my audience going to feel connected to me? Now, as a feng shui expert, her entire credibility lives in her relationship with space. But she was stuck in a corner of her office with a ring light and a blank wall behind her. So the first thing we solved was her staging. We chose a space that visually reinforced what she was selling: calm, intention, attention to detail with natural light, and objects that carried meaning for her. When you looked at the shot, you could feel that this was a real world that was set up before she ever said a word. And that's what Spike Jonze understood with the apartment build in Welcome Home. You're always communicating something with the space you choose to shoot in. So with your content, instead of investing in green screens, artificial backgrounds, or AI-generated B-roll, consider your space and staging. Maybe it makes more sense to film yourself walking down a real city street so that you can let in some of the noise and the atmosphere. Or maybe you want to let people into your home when you film and allow it to be authentic so they can connect with you. When you shoot practically, you capture these tiny imperfections, and those imperfections often signal trust because they're real. Now, if you're at a point in your business where your productions are getting bigger and bigger and you're ready to add another layer of support with directing your content, then you can book a free strategy call in the link in the description below, and we can talk more about it. But now let's dive back into technique 2. Make humans the product. In the 2018 ad, Apple spent millions building a transforming apartment, but the actual HomePod, the product, sat on a table for just a few seconds. You barely see it. The story focuses entirely on FKA Twigs and her exhaustion and how that character and story arc changes. You watch her drive herself home, turn on the music, and slowly find creative freedom as she dances out her frustration. They put the human at the center, and the product became the invisible partner, enabling her physical and emotional transformation. And Jonze did the exact same thing in 2025 with the Pedro Pascal short film. The AirPods barely appear. The narrative focuses completely on Pascal's heartbreak, and you watch him navigate a wintry, bleak city while he slips in the earbuds and slowly finds hope as the music changes his environment. The product disappears so the story can focus on his emotional journey. But here's the thing. When you're the talent and the director, keeping the human at the center is harder than it sounds because people have a tendency to drop the human rawness for the comfort of listing features. Plus, when you're in front of the camera alone, you tend to lose perspective. You can get robotic or have low energy. You can feel disconnected, and it can all get really tricky to sense when any of that is happening. And I saw this with Safrina. She could explain her process perfectly, but she was delivering it like a lecture. The human disappeared behind the information. So the pacing was off because she was either rushing through everything because she wanted it to be over, or flatlining with no variation because she was so focused on getting the facts right instead of connecting. That's what a director catches, and that's why you've got to put your director hat on when you're filming your own content. So here is the trick that I use when I'm directing myself. After you record your first take, don't watch it. Just listen to it. Close your eyes or put the screen on black, whatever you need to do. You'll hear the stiffness immediately. You'll hear the spots where you sound like you're reading, or the spots where you sped past a moment that really actually mattered and needed to land. Your ear tends to catch what your eyes miss when you're staring at yourself on the monitor, which is also very distracting. So the human needs to be the product, right? And you can't sell the human if you've hidden behind a wall of features and rushed delivery. Now, if you're finding this helpful, don't forget to subscribe so I can keep giving you content that is going to make your content better. So let's get into technique 3. This is sell the feeling, not the feature. In HomePod, Apple never mentions the speaker's bass response or its price. Instead, they showed an exhausted commuter finding creative freedom in her living room. They positioned the device as a tool that relieves the stress that we can all relate to. Coming home at the end of a long day and just needing to decompress. FKA Twigs is not selling a speaker. She's selling the feelings of release, becoming re-energized, and reconnecting with herself. And they did the exact same thing in the 2025 Pedro Pascal ad. The narrative follows a guy moving from grief to hope through music and changing seasons. But notice how they built the production's literal mechanism into the emotional arc. Pascal, he taps his earpods to toggle between active noise cancellation and ambient sound. He physically switches between his isolated music world and the noisy reality of the city. And that reality is the thing that has this ability to pull him out of this heartbroken state he's been existing in. That tap becomes a visual metaphor for choosing to let the real world in as his broken heart begins to mend. No specs are ever mentioned, and you almost forget that we're actually watching a commercial for earbuds. But this principle scales down, and you can apply it to the videos that you're going to shoot this very week. Now, before you explain a single feature of what you offer, ask yourself, what is the one feeling I want my audience to walk away with? In Safrina's video, she could explain the principles like the Bagua map and the 5 elements, but when I watched her first take, the feeling was missing. She was selling Feng Shui services. She wasn't selling the confidence of walking into your home and finally feeling at peace in your own space. So as her director, we had to strip it all the way back. And we asked, what's the one emotion that makes someone pick up the phone and book a call with you? And it's not, I need better Feng Shui. That's not what people are thinking or feeling. But they are feeling like, I want to feel a certain way about my home. Everything after that, the framing, the pacing, the words, had to point to that feeling. So here's the self-directing trick for this one. This is about emotional specificity. Before you film, write down the single feeling you want the viewer to walk away with it. Write it on a sticky note and stick it next to your camera lens. Then after every take, ask yourself, did I land closer to that feeling or did I move further away? And this is going to help keep you on track and start training your internal director. In 2025, major brands faced backlash for AI-driven campaigns that felt inauthentic and downright lazy. And they lost real trust that is more costly than any production budget. Apple's own marketing chief, Tor Mayron, said it clearly at Cannes in 2025. AI won't kill advertising, but it won't save it either. It works as a medium that must be integrated thoughtfully, not a replacement for human imagination. Now, it's easy to feel like you need to fix everything with AI or chase perfection. But remember, when you're directing yourself, the most valuable currency in content creation right now is letting realness in. So if you're at a point where you're tired of wearing all of the hats and want someone to handle the directing and the producing so you can focus on what you do best, then book a free strategy call. You know where the link is, it's in the description below, and I will see you soon.